Welcome to Counterfeit Vlog, and here I am again as the Counterfeit Vlogger, though I am for real. And we are going to look at an absolutely massive issue, and I do so with a certain degree of trepidation, because I've realised that there are certain subjects that if one speaks about, you can expect on social media the usual hate mail, threats and so on. So here we go. No, we're not going to speak about football, and we're not going to speak about politics. We are going to speak about something very simple. The Scottish Government are proposing to go ahead with a Gender Recognition Act. The UK government seem to be backpedaling on this, which is very interesting since the removal or resignation of Justin Greening. But the Scottish Government are going to go ahead. They are holding a consultation, which by the way is quite funny, because for you and I who are used to the English language as having some kind of meaning, consultation means that someone talks with you, consults with you, maybe changes their mind. It doesn't mean that in the way that governments use it. What they mean is that they've decided what they're going to do and they're going to ask you. So what the Scottish Government are doing, and they put this out, and groups from all over the world, transgender activists in particular, are writing into the Scottish Government as though a transgender activist in Canada or the United States or Australia or wherever has the right to tell what should happen in Scotland. But that's what's happening. I'm in the process of writing a response to it as well. Now, let's get some facts. First of all, we're not, and we need to be very careful here, the Scottish Government are not proposing that someone would just be able to say, I'm changing my gender, and that's it, and they can walk into a room and announce that there's something else, and maybe change it back the next day. What they are proposing is there are different models of how people can be recognized as having a gender change. One is a medicalized model. The other is what's called an assessment model, which is largely where we're at the moment. At the current moment, you're required to have lived for 2 years in the opposite gender to that which you were assigned at birth. Yeah, I know, that's the language though. Apparently, when my grandchild was born 4 weeks ago, somebody looked at him and said, boy or girl, I think I'll make this one a boy. So, but anyway, the gender which you're assigned at birth, you've got to live for 2 years, the opposite of that. You then have to get, I think, a couple of doctor's certificates. And in other words, it's quite medicalized. Now, the proposal is that this should be shifted to a self-assessment. And what would happen is you would have to swear an oath that you intended to live as the opposite gender for the rest of your life. How someone's going to assess whether that's true or not is impossible, of course. What's fascinating about this? Why are we talking about this under the term of counterfeit? Okay, let me tell you what is counterfeit. First of all, the Scottish Government are saying this is best practice. Well, who says? What they mean is that's what occurs in Denmark and Norway. This is best practice in the rest of the world. No, it's not best practice. And here's why it's counterfeit and why it's wrong. I'm a male. I'm not going to demonstrate that to you. It's not because of the beard, and I'm not going to prove it to you in the same way that when a child is born, you see. In other words, you're not going to see us standing here stark naked. But I'm a male. I was born a male. There are people who are born female. We read in the Bible that the essence of mankind, God made us male and female. Are there exceptions to that? Yes, there are. There's a question of intersex, but that's not what we're discussing here. There are those, says Jesus, who were born eunuchs. But in general, human beings are born male and female. The child is not assigned a sex at birth. They're not assigned one. They are. They are born male or they are born female, with very, very, very few exceptions. But what is happening here, and what the counterfeit is an argument that's based not on science, not on empirical knowledge, but on a political theory developed largely through queer theory. And that is the idea, at one level it was extreme feminism, which is quite ironic because now there's a civil war going on between feminists and what are called TERFs. TERFs are trans-exclusionary radical feminists. So, sorry, the war is between transgender activists and TERFs. But the extreme theory that this developed, this queer theory, was that gender is a social construct. And it's got nothing to do with your biology. So gender is how you feel. Now, there are all kinds of problems with this, as you can imagine. Peter Tatchell, for example, has just put out a message about, in Malaysia, they're offering to help people who want to change their gender, to stop them being transgender. And Tatchell is pointing out, well, you can't change what people are. But then if it's not to do with biology, how do you know what they are? And if gender is a social construct, are social constructs unchangeable? Can social constructs not be changed? So they get themselves incredibly confused. And here is the problem. This is why this counterfeit is so dangerous. It is counterfeit to tell people that they can change their gender. I am a 6 foot, actually, I discovered the other week, I'm 6 foot and half an inch. I thought I was only 6 foot, but I've gained half an inch. I am a 6 foot, white, Scottish male. I might want to be a 5'3" Chinese female, but I can't be one. I can't just identify as one. I can't be whatever I want to be. And I'm sorry, but our biological sex is very much part of that. Now, let's again be careful. There are gender constructs in terms of understanding how people are supposed to behave, which incidentally is quite funny because often you will meet transgender people who will try and fit into the stereotype of what a woman is supposed to do, wear a dress, not jeans, wear makeup and so on. But there are gender constructs. You often hear, you can't do that because you're a girl, or you can't do that because you're a boy. Well, I think those societal constructs can be challenged, but the basic biology cannot be challenged. And the basic differences between male and female cannot be challenged. Well, they can be challenged, but I think falsely so. So why is all this incredibly dangerous? Here's why. Remember when you were a hormonal teenager, how messed up you were? Imagine if you're being taught at school, indoctrinated at school, that maybe you feel a bit depressed. Maybe you feel a bit angst-driven because you were born in the wrong body. Because you're a boy, but maybe really you're a girl. Or maybe you're a girl and you're all messed up inside and you think, well, maybe if I was a boy. And here's the problem, and it's a big problem. Transgender people are something like 20 times more likely to attempt suicide. Now, the notion goes that is because they're excluded or because they're bullied and so on. And there'll be an element of truth to that. But what if being transgender itself is harmful? Why then are we teaching children? And believe you me, this is all about teaching children. Why are we telling children that they can choose their own gender? I know of a 7-year-old girl who came home from school in my city in tears. Mom, am I a boy or a girl? Why are you asking that? Because the teacher told me I could choose. See, I think that's child abuse. And I think what the government are proposing, trying to be nice, trying to help those who genuinely suffer from a psychological condition known as gender identity disorder. But I think what they are doing is they are proposing what amounts to state-sponsored child abuse. And I'm quite deliberate in saying that. I want to help people who suffer from gender dysphoria. I want to help people who are confused about the roles that they play and so on. That I don't dispute. But I don't want to rearrange the whole of humanity and society to try and change humanity into something it's not. I haven't even mentioned non-binary. That's where you don't know what gender you are. And even Facebook, I got up this morning and I was going to talk about the 51 genders that Facebook have, but I've just looked and it's 71 genders that Facebook have. Really, 71 genders. This is the madness. This, by the way, will destroy women's sport. It's why the feminists are so opposed. It is doing so much destructive harm. It is counterfeit to say that you are a humanist and then seek to destroy what humanity is by deconstructing gender. Some of you may be saying, this is what you may want to go along these routes. You may want to say, well, so what if there's more than 2 genders, if there's 71 genders or 1,005 genders? What do we lose? I'll tell you what we lose. We're made male and female in the image of God. So both male and female are in the image of God, okay? That's really, really, really important. And God saw that it was good. He saw the whole creation was good, but particularly humankind, so that we were very good. And what's happening here is this is deconstructing what God has made. And ultimately, that is only going to cause harm. And I see that in some of the transgender people I meet with. I see it in a very, very confused society, and I see it in a messed up world. We need to follow the Maker's instructions, not try and remake ourselves. So we'll stand up for this, not because it's inverted commas against our religion, but because it's against the humanity that God has made. It's such a destructive philosophy, such a counterfeit philosophy. And any Christian who's got any sense, as well as many of you who watch this who are not Christians, you'll agree with this, you'll know this. You can see the harm that it's going to do, which is why, by the way, most activists are keeping it relatively quiet and trying to get to our kids. They are going for the children. They are confusing and teaching the children this counterfeit ideology. May God stop them, and may we be able to stand up against it. God bless you.